Hello and welcome back. Today we are doing prerequisites number 4 in this video. So what we are doing is factoring quadratic trinomials. So this is from Algebra 1, and we're just going to be factoring each of these quadratics. So what I like to do is, if you can see it really quick, then that's great, but if you can't, that's okay too. My favorite trick is to start with our b and our c. So our b value is 10, value before the x, and then our c is 9. So what I like to do is find a number that multiplies out to our c and adds to our b. So let's see what numbers multiply out to 9. So 1 times 9, negative 1 times negative 9, 3 times 3, negative 3 times negative 3. Those are the 4 values that multiply out to 9. So how do they add to our b? How do they add to 10? Well, let's add them together and see. So 1 plus 9 is equal to 10. So right off the bat, that works. But let's just check our others. Negative 1 plus negative 9 is negative 10. So that doesn't work. 3 plus 3 is 9. Negative 3 minus 3 is negative 9. So we know that our two numbers in our parentheses are going to be 1 and 9. So we just write x plus 1 times x plus 9. And that's it. That's our factored. So let's try 2. We're going to try 2 the same way. We're going to take our b, which is negative 6, and our c, which is 9. So we just did our values over on the left for our 9. So remember, our values that multiply out to 9, 1 times 9, 1 times 1 times 9, oh my goodness, 1 times 9, negative 1 times negative 9, 3 times 3, negative 3 times negative 3. So which of these add up to negative 6? 1 plus 9 is 10. Negative 1 plus 9 is, negative 1 plus negative 9 is negative 10. 3 plus 3 is 6. Negative 3 minus negative 3, minus 3 is negative 6. So we can see that our negative 3's are the ones that are going to work. So the same format where we just write x and then plus our first value, which is negative 3. So x minus 3, and then x plus our second value, which is negative 3. So x minus 3. So this is our answer, x minus 3 times x minus 3. But it can also be written as x minus 3 squared. So you have two ways to write out your answer, x minus 3 times x minus 3 or x minus 3 squared. Both of these are correct. Okay, so let's move on to question number 3. This is the same way where we take our b, which is negative 11, and our c, which is 24. So let's find things that multiply out to 24 and add to 10. So we have a couple choices. Let's start. So negative 1 and negative 24 work. Does negative 1 minus 24 add up to negative 10? Nope, that's negative 25. So let's keep going. Let's try negative 2 times negative 12. That multiplies to positive 24. But negative 2 minus 12, that gets to negative 14. We're getting closer to 11 though. Negative 3 times negative 8 becomes positive 24. Negative 3 minus 8, well, that equals negative 11. So we found our two values, negative 3 and negative 11. So then again, we just write x plus our first value, so x plus negative 3, or x minus 3, multiplied by x plus our second value, or negative 8, x minus 8. So that is our answer, x minus 3 times x minus 8. Okay, so now we're going to go to 4. 4 is a little different because we have a number in front of our x squared, and we can't take it out, we can't simplify. So the rule for this is we have our a value, which is 3, and our c value, which is negative 12. So we can multiply out our a and our c value. So we multiply out our 3 and our negative 12. That becomes negative 36. So what we do with this number is we find out what multiplies out to negative 36. So let's find some terms that multiply out to negative 36. So for negative 36, we have 1 and negative 36, negative 1, positive 36, 2 and negative 18, negative 2 and 18, 3, negative 12, negative 3, 12, 4, negative 9, negative 4, 9, and then we have negative 6 and 6. So what I like to do with this is we have our values here, and we incorporated our a and c, but now we need to find something that adds up to our b. So take a second. Which one of these adds up to our b? When we add each of these together, is it 1 minus 36? Nope, that's negative 35. 2 minus 18? Nope, that is negative 16. 3 minus 12? That's negative 9. 4 minus 9? Yep, that's negative 5. So our two values are going to be 4 and negative 9. So in this case, when we have a value in front of it, we multiply out our a and c, find something that multiplies out to our value, which we get, which is 36. And then we find something that adds up to our b. So it's a lot similar to how we do it in these ones, where we find something that multiplies out to our c. We're still technically finding something that multiplies out to a times c. However, our a is 1. So 1 times c, 1 times anything is just itself. So that's why we don't really write it, because it's implied. So we found that our values, oh my goodness, our values multiply out 4 and negative 9 and add up to negative 5. So the way we write this is, let's start with our 3x. So 3x squared, and then we have our negative 5x. So our negative 5x, we are actually going to rewrite instead as 4 and negative 9. So what I mean by that is that we are going to change our negative 5x to 4x minus 9x. And how that works is, remember, our negative 5x is equal to 4x minus 9x. So these are the same. We're just exchanging our 5x for our 4x and our negative 9x. And then we're still going to keep the same with our 12. So now what we're going to do is, let's start with our first part over here. Our 3x squared and our 4x have something in common. They both have an x that we can take out. So when we take out our x, we're left with 3x plus 4. Then for our second part, we have negative 9x minus 12. Well, in this case, we can take out a negative 3, and we're left with 3x plus 4. And wait a second, doesn't that look similar? 3x minus 4, 3x plus 4, and 3x plus 4. So now we have two of these 3x plus 4s. Technically, can't we take that out just like how we did before, 3x plus 4? And if we take it out in our parentheses, what we're left with is our x and our minus 3. So this is how we factor, and this is the answer we get. 3x plus 4 times x minus 3. That's our answer. So it might be a little tricky if you haven't done this one before or not done much, but we have 5 and 6 to practice and do. So 5 let's do 5. We're going to do our A times C. Our A is 4 and our C is 49. And remember, we're trying to find something that multiplies out to 49, but adds up to our B, which is 28. So let's try some of our values. We have 1 and 196. We have 2 and 98. We have 4 and 49, 8 and 26, and 14 and 14. So which one of these adds up to 28? Well, we can see right off the bat, 14 plus 14 is 28. So we do like we did before, where we take our 4x squared, and instead of adding 28, we just add both of our values, 14. So 14 and 14x plus 49 plus 49. So let's take out what we have from the first one. We can take out a 2x, and then we're left with 2x plus 7. And then on the one on the right, what we can do is take out just a 7. And then we're left with 2x plus 7. And so now we have 2 of these 2x plus 7s, so we can take those out. And then we're left with multiplied by 2x plus 7 again. So we have 2x plus 7 times 2x plus 7. So we can either leave it in this form, or we can write it in this form, 2x plus 7 squared. Both of these answers are correct. Either way, either form you leave it in, you will be correct. Okay, so now let's go to 6. 6 says that 15x squared minus 11x minus 12. So remember, A times C, our A is 15, our C is negative 12. So 15 times negative 12 is negative 180. So 180 is a very large number, and there's a lot of things that multiply out to negative 180. We can write them all out, or I'm just going to write out a couple to save us some time. So we can obviously do the negative times itself, 1 times itself, and then we can do a couple more. So let's try negative 3 and 60. We can try a 6 and a 30, negative 6 and a 30, and negative 8 and a 25, 9 times negative 20, 10 times negative 18, and then let's try a 12 times 15. Well, remember, we are trying to find a number that adds up to our 11, negative 11. And what adds up to negative 11? 9 and negative 20. Negative 20 plus 9 is negative 11. So let's rewrite our equation over here, 15x squared, and then we have our plus our 9x minus our 20x plus 12. And so now we're going to simplify it. So we can take out a 3x from both of these. We're left with 5x plus 3. And then for the second part, we can take out a negative 4. We're left with a 5x minus, 5x plus 3. Remember, our 12 over here is actually a negative. We get the negative from right here. That was a typo. So that's where we get our 5x plus 3. And remember, we have our 5x plus 3 twice, so we take that out. Then we have what's left, 3x minus 4. So this is our final answer for 6. 5x plus 3 minus 3x, 5x plus 3 multiplied by 3x minus 4. So that's prerequisite number 4, factoring quadratic trinomials. And remember, tri means 3. That's why we have 1, 2, 3 terms in each of these. Okay, so let's go to 5. 5 says that we are solving quadratic equations and inequalities. So we're going to solve each problem by factoring or using the quadratic formula, rounding answers to the nearest hundredth as needed. So one of the main things for this class is that you need to know the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is very, very, very important. So I'm going to give you a couple seconds to remember what the quadratic formula is and write it down on the top of your paper over here. Okay, if you don't remember, that's okay. You really got to remember for your AP exam. That's in May, so you have a long time, and we're going to use it in class. But if you remember, great. X is equal to B plus or minus, negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4A times C all over 2A. Please, please, please remember the quadratic formula. Please remember the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Quadratic formula. So we're not going to use it for the first couple of questions, but we are definitely using it for question number 4. So the first one, we are factoring and then solving. So remember our rule, a times c. Well, our a is 1, our c is 3. So we're just solving for 3. Our b is 4. What multiplies out to 3? Just 1 and 3, or negative 1 and negative 3. What adds up to 4? 1 and 3 add up to 4. So we're going to use 1 and 3 for our values, which looks like x plus 1, x plus 3. We've done a lot of these, so hopefully by now you're familiar, you are comfortable, you can do these. So now we have the 1 plus 3 times x plus 3, but we're setting them equal to something now. So what we're going to do is solve for x. So remember, when we are solving these, only one of these has to equal 0, because when one of them equals 0, anything times 0 is 0. 10 times 0 is 0. 1,000 times 0 is 0. 1,000,003 times 0 is 0. So that's why we can set these equal to 0 and solve for x. So we're going to set both of these equal to 0 and solve for x. X is negative 1. X is negative 3. So those are our answers, negative 1 or negative 3. Now let's do it for 2. 2 is a little different because it's not equal to 0, it's equal to 6. To get it equal to 0, we want to bring our 6 over to our left side. So we have x squared minus 5x minus 6. So then we can get our answer. And remember, it's equal to 0. So now, we're trying to find something, a times c. 1 times negative 6 is equal to negative 6. A times c, so something times, what two numbers multiply out to negative 6? Negative 1 times 6, 1 times negative 6, 2 times negative 3, negative 2 times 3. All right, which of these adds up to our b, our negative 5? Negative 1 plus 6 is 5. 1 minus 6, negative 5. 2 minus 3, negative 1. 2 plus 3, positive 1. So 1 times negative 6. So that's where we get x minus 6 as our first value times x plus 1 as our second value. Remember, it's equal to 0. Now, we are going to set both of these equal to 0. X minus 6 is equal to 0. X plus 1 is equal to 0. Equals 0. So now x minus 6 equal to 0, we get x is equal to 6. X plus 1 is equal to 0, x is equal to negative 1. So for our values, we get x is equal to 6 or x is equal to negative 1. For 3, we have this long thing. We want to bring everything over to one side so it's easier to work with. So we're going to subtract x squared from both sides. We're going to subtract 3 from both sides. We're left with 3 minus x squared becomes 3 minus x squared becomes 2x squared. 2x squared minus 5x. Negative 9 minus 3, negative 12. Now, we need to do a times c. A times c. 2 times negative 12 becomes negative 24. The numbers that multiply out to negative 24. 1, negative 24. 2, negative 12. 3, negative 8. 4, negative 6. 1, negative 1, 24. Negative 2, 12. Negative 3, 8. Negative 4, 6. The numbers that add up to negative 5 are 3 and negative 8. 3 minus 8 is negative 5. So, what we're going to do is negative 2x squared minus 8x plus 3x minus 12 is equal to 0. Now we are going to simplify. We can take a 2 and an x out of our 2x squared, becomes x minus 4. And then we can take a 3 out of this, becomes x minus 4 equal to 0. So now we're going to combine our terms. We have 2x minus 4s. Then we're going to multiply it by remaining 2x plus 3. That's equal to 0. We can set both of these equal to 0. X minus 4 is equal to 0. 2x plus 3 is equal to 0. X becomes just x equals 4. The 2x minus 3 becomes, we subtract 3 from both sides. We get 2x is equal to negative 3. We divide by 2. So then we get x is equal to negative 3 over 2. So our two values are x is 4 or x is negative 3 over 2. Okay, so now we did all that. What we have left to do is, remember our question said, solve each problem by factoring, which we've been doing, or using the quadratic formula. You can use the quadratic formula for each of these equations. You can also use factoring for these three. For 4, we have to use the quadratic formula. So let's try using the quadratic formula. Remember, the quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Please remember this formula. We'll be using it more in class, but please, please, please remember it. Our a is 4. Our b is negative 12. Our c is 1. So now, every time we see a, we plug in 4. Every time we see b, we plug in negative 12. Every time we see c, we plug in 1. I don't know what just happened. It just scrolled up. Okay. So, the square root of b squared, negative 12 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is 1, all over 2a, 2 times 4. X is equal to, well, negative times a negative 12 becomes positive 12, plus or minus the square root of 12, which is 144, minus 4 times 4, which is 16, times 1, which is 16, all over 2 times 4, which is 8. This simplifies to 12 plus or minus the square root of 144 minus 16 becomes 128 over 8. X is equal to 12 plus or minus the square root of 128 does not simplify. That is not a perfect square. So what we can do is, this is what we're left with, 128 over 8. What we're going to do is write them in two ways. X is equal to 12. We're going to write our plus. So x is equal to 12 plus the square root of 128 over 8, or x is equal to 12, and then we're going to do minus the square root of 128 over 8. So you can simplify these or leave them in this form. But let's see what the question says. Round answers to the nearest hundredth as needed. So we can't leave it in this form. We have to round them. So when you plug this into your calculator, you get x is equal to 2.91, x is equal to 0.09. Is that it? No. The answer is no. Because look right here, we have our less than sign. So our x values are going to be less than. Our x is going to be in a range. So we have these two numbers. We are just going to write it in a little inequality like this. 0.09 is less than x, which is less than 2.91. X is a value between these two numbers. X cannot be greater than 2.91. If x is 3, it doesn't work. It won't solve this equation over here. If x is negative 10, it is less than 0.09. It won't work. So our answer is in fact this, 0.09, which is less than x, which is less than 2.91. Okay, so that's prerequisite number 5. In the next video, we're going to be doing prerequisite number 6.